This is In the Loop. I'm Christian Bryant. I want y'all to know this show is for everybody, except the people who didn't get at least a little excited when NASA released a video of Perseverance touching down on Mars. I've got to draw the line somewhere. While many Americans are waiting for an additional round of COVID relief, cyber criminals are taking advantage of an opportunity to steal information and money through text message scams. Plus, who says you can't use TikTok for something other than dance tutorials? We'll tell you how one person used humor to start a conversation about mental health. But first, here's what you need to know right now.
The insurrection at the Capitol was more than an assault on democracy. It was an actual life or death situation for the many brave law enforcement officers who show up here to do their work every day.
Senators began their inquiry into the Capitol Hill riot Tuesday with the goal of making sure something like that never happens again. Two committees are investigating the breach on January 6th, which led to 5 deaths. A Capitol police officer who received chemical burns to the face responding to the riots testified about that day.
Of the multitude of events I've worked in my nearly 19-year career in the department, this was by far the worst of the worst. We could have had 10 times the amount of people working with us, and I still believe the battle would have been just as devastating.
Top security officials in charge of preparing for that day also shared what they believe went wrong.
Based on the intelligence, we all believed that the plan met the threat and that we were prepared. We now know that we had the wrong plan.
Even our best efforts were not enough to stop this unprecedented assault on the Capitol. However, casting blame solely on United States Capitol Police leadership is not only misplaced, but it also minimizes what truly occurred that day.
This marked the first in a series of hearings as the committees look into the attack. Professional golfer Tiger Woods suffered multiple leg injuries in a rollover crash early Tuesday morning. The full extent of his injuries have not been released, but he was in surgery this afternoon. Video from the scene showed a damaged car turned over on its side. According to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office, Woods was pulled out using the so-called Jaws of Life tools. No other cars were involved in the crash, and the cause is still unclear. Woods was in Los Angeles over the weekend as the tournament host of the Genesis Invitational at Riviera, where he presented the trophy. He was scheduled to spend Monday and Tuesday filming with Discovery-owned Golf TV. The winter storm has come and gone, but the recovery is just beginning in Texas. The Insurance Council of Texas predicts this could be the costliest storm the state has ever seen. Nearly 30,000 claims have been filed due to last week's storm, many dealing with busted pipes, and thousands more are expected. While safe drinking water has returned to most residents in larger cities, boil water notices remain in effect for many smaller towns and cities. Meanwhile, residents are getting hit with sky-high electric bills. The uniquely unregulated and free market energy system in Texas means higher demand for power leads to prices shooting up. We're talking thousands of dollars for just the first half of February. Over the weekend, the governor of Texas said he is working on a way to help reduce the burden. The family of a Navy veteran in California wants more answers when it comes to how police handled his mental health crisis. Last week, the family of Angelo Quinto filed a wrongful death suit against the Antioch Police Department. Back in December, Quinto's sister called the police because her brother was getting agitated and extremely paranoid. When police arrived on the scene, he was handcuffed and put on the ground. The family attorney released a reenactment of what they say happened. According to the video, police knelt on his neck for nearly 5 minutes. Graphic video of the actual incident was captured after that. Quinto can be seen unconscious.
What happened?
Angelo.
That's how they loaded him into the ambulance. He died at the hospital 3 days later. The district attorney's office and sheriff's office are investigating the incident. Police have not released the official cause of death, and the officers involved were not wearing any body cameras. The incident shines a light back on the national movement to change how police respond to mental health crises.
I just trusted them so much that even to this day, I feel so guilty.
This week, New York City police announced they will stay out of many mental health crisis calls, and social workers will respond instead. The test program will begin in 3 police precincts that accounted for the highest number of mental health related 911 calls last year. President Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill is making its way through Congress, and if passed, it will provide Americans with another stimulus check of up to $1,400 per person. Meanwhile, cyber criminals are taking advantage of the moment by tricking people into signing up for fake COVID relief through text messages and then stealing from them. Newsy's Tyler Atkinson tells us how exactly this scam works.
As the U.S. waits for another potential round of stimulus checks, scammers are out there smishing. That is, using text messages to try to steal people's information and money.
It says, Karen, you have been accepted for our COVID relief program. You are now eligible to earn $1,472 per day. It makes me mad to think about somebody using that to get money out of people.
Look at the attackers as like very smart direct marketers. They go with the zeitgeist. They go with what's happening in the media, what consumers are hearing.
They're throwing the numbers in these tech scams to be very similar to the numbers that the government is promising to get stimulus checks out on. So they are iterating their attacks and they are crafting their messaging to take advantage of the situation.
According to the Federal Trade Commission, there's been more than $348 million in COVID-related fraud loss since the start of the pandemic, with roughly $30 million of that coming through text and phone call scams. Experts told Newsy they expect smishing scams to continue through the pandemic, but that the messaging will shift.
What we predict actually is that there will be a joint IRS tax return and COVID relief smishing happening. One potential example would be that an attacker would say, get your COVID stimulus payment now before the IRS takes it in a tax bill.
As more, say, vaccination centers start opening up, then I wouldn't be surprised if the cybercriminal community starts sending out messages saying, oh, you can now get the vaccine.
If you get any messages like these, experts say you should look at the content of the message and think through before clicking on any link.
The way that the government will get you COVID relief is by direct deposit to your bank account or via a check in the mail. The governments shouldn't send out texts to you.
They also say you should block the number of the scammers. Copy the text and forward it to 7726, which spells spam.
All the US operators use that to block attacks. So they leverage that information to put in filters to block those attacks.
If some of us just go ahead and block the contacts, then that gives the carriers enough information so that they can take steps to not only block that particular scam, but also analyze the forensics of it in detail and build more defense into the automated detection mechanisms as well.
Tyler Atkinson, Newsy, Chicago.
One of the reasons I love this job is because today I'm going to get paid to talk to my friend about TikTok. It's for a good cause, though. If it's Tuesday, we're talking TikTok. And here to talk to us about what's popping off in his palm, it's Mr. Millennial himself, Cody LeGros. First and foremost, Cody, thank you for writing that intro for me. How are you?
Honey. We're coming up on a year of this lockdown stuff, right? So I am grateful to be employed. I truly do miss seeing people every day, but this is the next best thing, Christian. I've got you in my ears, and apparently I'm popping off in your palm too, so that's good.
Yeah. What a weird way to describe TikTok and being on TikTok, just coming up on this milestone of us being here for a year. I'm really curious, and this is a conversation that I've had with my friends and colleagues, is what exactly is this doing for our mental health? And I understand that you had a conversation with somebody about this.
Right. So of course, the millennial experience and mental health right now is kind of at the forefront of all of our brains. And someone who is really bringing levity to the topic is the TikToker Just Me Rod. And here's a taste of what he does.
Cody, I feel like I'm traumatized by that Britney Spears song now. What am I supposed to do with this?
I mean, maybe identify with it, like, nearly 500,000 people have who follow Rod. And I think it's because mental health has been at the forefront of a lot of people's minds this year, and several reports confirm that. So JAMA reported symptoms of depression are 3 times higher than before the pandemic. And the CDC said 40% of US adults reported struggling with mental health. And then add on top of that, the American Psychological Association says more Americans are seeking mental health treatment. Rod's account brings levity to this very serious topic and talking about working through these less than ideal conditions. So I did get to catch up with Rod and see why he does this in the first place.
I think that the fear of getting fired for doing nothing wrong is going to be a big one. Absolutely crushing a presentation or crushing a project, doing really well. But then there's my imposter syndrome in the back of my head saying, no, you didn't do well.
I am sitting here talking to a corner with a ring light on every day. And I'm gonna be honest, it truly, some days it is emotional work, and it is like, here I'm smiling and waving. This is the job. But I think that's why your account, that's why I love your account so much, because it's like, it kind of personifies what everyone is feeling during this pandemic. So what's your message and your advice to people who are struggling, millennials, right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't be afraid to not be expressive. I think I have a different opportunity with my TikToks to be expressive, but my boss told me that he has the same fears as me. And I was like, I have the fears about you. And I actually have a good relationship with my boss. It's just my irrational thinking. And he has a good relationship with his boss. But it's just, we all have these thoughts. So first of all, don't think you're alone in them. Bring up anything that's weighing you down as well. I mean, we're all in this together, like you had said at the beginning of this call.
Christian, you heard it here first. We are all in this together. I will spare you the choreography.
I feel like I can actually use that. I wanted to know, did you ever think you'd be talking to a TikToker about mental health? Is that what phase of the pandemic we're in right now?
I mean, I'm seeking help wherever I can get it, Christian. In 2021, par for the course, baby. Keep it coming.
Cody LeGros, thank you for helping us. I'm going to tell you what you usually tell me. Stay safe, stay sane, and we'll do this again sometime.
We will try, baby. You too.
All right, we're going to log off TikTok for a bit. When you're back, we'll tell you how immigration advocates are hoping to unite families separated by Trump-era policies. President Biden has revoked a 4-year travel ban for people from 13 Muslim-majority and African nations. Now groups are hoping to reunite families and make more progress toward immigration issues. National reporter Thomas Hoppe breaks it down for us.
In the past 4 years, we've seen really unprecedented attacks on immigrant communities and the separation of families, the shutting down of borders even before COVID. So it's been a very challenging 4 years for immigrant communities.
For the past 4 years, the issue of immigration has been at the center of conversations for the United States. But now, immigration advocates say there is new life for their cause now that there's a new administration in office. President Biden revoked a travel ban from 13 Muslim-majority and African nations implemented by the Trump administration. When
the first Muslim ban hit, we immediately started getting calls from folks in our local communities, and they were concerned about parents and children who were on flights and what would happen. And we were at the airport and had clients who were being detained by Customs and Border Patrol.
Arthi Kohli is the executive director of Asian Americans Advancing Justice for the Asian Law Caucus.
We work to protect and defend the rights of immigrant communities, and most recently have been working really hard to make sure that people are reunited with their families.
The State Department denied more than 41,000 visa requests due to former President Trump's travel restrictions, most of them from Iran. Kohli's goal is to reunite immigrant families affected by this.
That's what the people we know about. There certainly could be people who failed to apply because they knew that they wouldn't be able to get in. We want to make sure that the Biden administration creates a clear and easy process for all the people who have been denied to actually get a visa and enter the country. So we're going to be working hard to monitor what's happening on the ground and to ensure that people actually get access to the papers that they need.
Moving forward, Kohli's Asian Law Caucus is working towards making sure immigrants from any country aren't banned or separated.
One of the additional things we really want to see is the passage of the No Ban Act in Congress, because that ensures that no future president will have the ability to issue an executive order like the Muslim ban, which was based on racial and ethnic discrimination. So we really think we need to change the law.
I'm Thomas Hopper reporting.
If you haven't done so already, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter using the hashtag NewsyInTheLoop. I would give you all my email, but I wouldn't want your messages to get lost in the spam folder like all my other work messages. There's still so much we don't know about COVID's long-term effects on the health of coronavirus survivors. National reporter Usher Qureshi takes us inside a CDC-funded effort to try and understand what life will be like going forward for so-called long haulers.
Aside from losing her sense of smell last June, Taima Hadzik had none of the telltale signs of a COVID infection.
I didn't even lose my sense of taste completely. It was mostly just sense of smell.
But within a few days of testing positive, the 31-year-old started to have more serious side effects. Blisters on her hands, rashes on her legs and arms. Her joints began to swell.
I started also having some pain in my feet. I did end up in the ER just because the swelling was really, really big on my hands. I had blisters. I couldn't wash my hands because I couldn't rub them together. It hurt so bad.
A new paper published in the journal Skeletal Radiology this week has now, for the first time, confirmed and documented the causes of these types of symptoms through CT scans, MRIs, and ultrasound.
In some patients, COVID-19 triggers an autoimmune reaction, which means the virus can trick the body into attacking itself.
Dr. Swati Deshmukh is a musculoskeletal radiologist and assistant professor at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago. She's one of the authors of the study.
Some of my patients have recovered and imaging has shown signs of improvement. But for other patients, and especially patients with these autoimmune conditions that have been triggered by COVID-19, they will need lifelong treatment.
In some cases, Dr. Deshmukh says these types of inflammatory responses can mysteriously appear without other common COVID symptoms.
They may not even know that they have been infected with the virus. And then later on, they go on to develop problems with muscles, with nerves, with joints.
The imaging, she says, can help explain the origins of the symptoms and guide post-COVID treatment from a rheumatology specialist or dermatologist. After 2 hospitalizations and 3 biopsies, Hadzik was eventually diagnosed with COVID-induced psoriatic arthritis. It could be one of the first of its kind. The chronic condition now requires her to take medication daily.
We really don't know if once it works itself out of my system, what that's going to look like if I at some point begin weaning myself off of the medication, if those symptoms are going to come back. So really right now it's a pretty big unknown.
It's another long-haul symptom, say experts, that proves just how much remains to be learned about the lingering effects of the virus. Reporting from Chicago, I'm Usher Qureshi.
Blood donations are necessary to treat a range of illnesses and can even help with patients who have contracted COVID. But the nation's blood supply has been critically low during this pandemic, and that has put a strain on the country's blood centers. Now, winter weather is making things even worse. National reporter Stephanie Stone has more.
It's a bad time.
There's no other way to say it. Dr. Claudia Cohn is the Chief Medical Officer for the AABB, or the American Association of Blood Banks. The organization helps keep blood safe. It coordinates from vein to vein, meaning from donations to transfusions.
I'm used to hearing about emergency calls for blood and that they're always answered. This is the first time in my memory that there has been a call for blood, and although every center around the country is trying to scramble to fill the needs in Texas, they're not entirely able because they also are at a low level at their own centers.
There is, Dr. Cohn says, a need everywhere. States are attempting to share supply, but that's not easy.
The strain from COVID put together with the weather challenges have put a dramatic strain on the system, particularly in Texas.
So what happens if there's not enough blood?
If you need it very badly, I don't want to sound dramatic, but you could die.
Patients who need blood on a regular basis could be managed, but it's the trauma and surgery patients who would be placed in a life or death situation.
When is the blood supply ever really good? Is there a point in time where the blood supply is always perfect?
Turns out most of the time, it's okay.
I'll talk about our pre-COVID days where we often had a 5 to 7 day supply of all that we needed on the shelf. Saying that doesn't mean that we're stable or flush. We always need people to come in and donate.
Platelets have a shelf life of 5 to 7 days. They need to be constantly replenished. And as for the blood itself, well, they always need O negative.
If there's an emergency and a patient needs blood before we can do testing to make sure that it's safe, we can usually, in 99% of cases, give group O negative blood and it will be safe for those patients.
So what can you do? Give blood. Dr. Cohn says we've been in tough spots before and we've always resolved it. So she says she has faith, but everyone needs to help to bring our supply back up. I'm Stephanie Stone, reporting.
That's it for us, gang. As always, thanks for watching. We'll be back for more In the Loop tomorrow, same time, same place. Top stories from Newsy are headed your way right now.